Are we ready to go? Ready to go? 3, 2, 1. It is Wednesday afternoon in East Lansing, Michigan. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Come on in. It's a quick one, 3&Out. What we do is we take 3 questions and we get right to it. Normally with Spartan Mag Live, we go about 14, 15 questions, take some comments, and spend all night doing it. But on a Wednesday afternoon, game week, Michigan State getting ready to play Ohio State this weekend. Go over to this YouTube channel, check out Paul Konodike and I, Paul Konodike, associate editor, SpartanMag.com. He and I talked about Michigan State versus Ohio State and some other things pertaining to this Michigan State football team yesterday after press conferences and interviews. Check that out. Also, go to SpartanMag.com. Become a subscriber today. You won't regret it. You'll like it. If you're checking this out, you'll like it. Anyway, 3 questions and we're out of here. Question number 1, Alex from Los Angeles. He asks, do you think other Michigan State quarterbacks will see action this season in addition to Peyton Thorne? Or other than Peyton Thorne? That's what he's asking. He points out Peyton Thorne is 16 out of 48, 33% on passes that are 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage or deeper. Overall, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Not a great ratio. Those statistics, those come from a graphic we posted on the Underground Bunker message board yesterday when someone was asking about Thorne and his success or lack thereof, whether he's throwing to the sideline or over the middle. So I showed the completion and attempt chart. The source was Pro Football Focus, and those stats right there were derived from that. I wasn't necessarily trying to make a point out of it. I was just showing it to the readers there. As far as Thorne goes, it's getting to be a sticky situation. You're asking me to predict what the coaches are thinking and what they might do. Thorne has been struggling. He's not himself. He's not the best version of himself. He was excellent last year when he had a great running game and a little better help on defense, although the pass defense last year was bad, but overall it was a little more consistent with the ground defense and so forth. This year he's been without explosive plays because he's lacking explosive players. Kenneth Walker, of course, gone. Jalen Naylor, of course, gone to the NFL. Jaden Reed has not been himself. So for those reasons, Peyton Thorne's understandable that he's not been himself. That doesn't necessarily excuse being off target against Western Michigan and Akron with some high passes, and he was the first one to criticize himself about that. Washington game, I thought he was excellent. Did not panic. His teammates gave him a 16-0 deficit, and he just stayed within himself, nearly brought the team back. Didn't get enough defensive stops to make that happen, but I thought he was good that day. Against Minnesota, some more struggles, missed an open pass that could have been a touchdown. Actually, Washington game also could have been a touchdown. Last week, Jeremy Bernard came open on Michigan State's last possession. Looked like it could have been a touchdown. Missed him. That could have cut it to 1 touchdown with 4 minutes to go. Maybe you get a chance to get in there, force overtime, and steal it. The interception that was overturned at the end of the first half, troubling situation there. Missed him high. Interception, nearly a pick 6, return to the 3-yard line. Almost a Joe Theismann Super Bowl moment in Tampa against the Raiders back in like 81 or whenever that was, 83. Overturned because of personal foul. Otherwise, that would have been an ugly mark. And after that, Michigan State retained possession, drove 15 yards to attempt a field goal, which was blocked. Those were short passes. That drive began with a 12-yard run by Jalen Berger. Even after that, I thought Thorne was, I don't want to say skittish, but very, maybe to his credit, very careful with some of those underneath passes. Got into field goal range, and it was blocked. But after that interception, I thought that Thorne was, I don't want to say timid, but trying to manage things, but had scaled things back a little bit. I think it was the 3rd possession of the second half, overthrew Jaden Reed, almost intercepted by the linebacker. 2 deep zone, linebacker dropping. It was 2.5, not quite triple coverage, but looked to be like he was really looking up Jaden Reed, and for good reason. Jaden Reed's been a great go-to for a couple of years. Tyler Hunt was open over the middle. I think it was Hunt on a little crossing route. That was the first play of the drive. Didn't throw to Hunt, threw into coverage. Lucky that was not an interception. If that's an interception and the pick 6 is an interception, I wonder. He didn't go to Hunt. I kind of understand that. Hunt had dropped a pass. Barker dropped 2 passes. That second half on offense, problems. Drop passes, ended drives. They're not good enough to drop a pass and come back and pick it up on 3rd and 6. So everybody has to be at their best for the offense to merely be functional. Peyton Thorne, it's been a struggle, and the thought did cross my mind with that near interception where the linebacker almost had the interception, second or third drive of the second half. The thought crossed my mind, if they were going to go to a reliever type situation, would that be the time? Noah Kim has looked pretty good in relief. Now, it's been against second stringers and against rolled back coverage, but the arm talent looks pretty good. Is there just a little different rhythm there? Noah Kim is from the Maryland, Virginia area. I thought, would that weigh into it? Because sometimes coaches do play players based on where they're visiting and where guys are from. That's part of it. Did not happen. They stayed with Thorne. Also, the broadcasters, I can't remember who was broadcasting in that game, but they revealed that Mel Tucker had told them that Mel Tucker had a conversation with Peyton Thorne earlier in the week, telling Peyton Thorne, you are my guy, you are my quarterback. If a head coach tells that to a quarterback, it's harder to go away from him. And if you go away from him at that moment and Noah Kim comes in and does well and you still lose, now you got a bigger controversy. Secondly, leadership is really important right now for this team. A lot of players are down. Xavier Henderson's trying to lead with a boot on his knee. You've got a lot of transfers in this program. What is that going to do in terms of leadership? We hear that Jacoby Windman's a great leader, but transfers come in hoping to play, and if some are not, you've got a lot of players in that locker room that did not come in together as 18-year-olds, may not know each other as well as teammates usually do. You start losing. That can be a problematic situation. Peyton Thorne, probably the best leader on the team. If you take his job away, you could get a leadership vacuum there. It could be a problem. So if you go to Kim, there's no guarantee that'll be better. If you stick with Thorne, there's a chance he can improve. But if you upset that apple cart, it can lead to other unintended consequences. You're asking me, do I think other quarterbacks will see real action this season? Yeah, I think at some point, if the season really goes downhill, I think you will see that at some point. I'm not sure it's going to go completely downhill. After the Minnesota game, I thought Michigan State was staring squarely at a 3-9 type of season, and still might be. But I saw a little bit of progress in the Maryland game on defense, just in terms of same pageness in the second half with the defense playing with one brain. That was progress. The run game, tailbacks averaged 5 yards a carry in that game against the Maryland run defense that is not as bad statistically as it looks. You had to block some people, move some people, and break some tackles. Elijah Collins did that. So between the running game getting a little more established, showing some seeds of possibly being better, and the defense getting a little bit more of its crap together, I saw the beginnings of something that could enable Michigan State to win some games, and maybe they might not go 3-9. But if it goes downhill at some point, you shake things up, and I think that is possible. I know it's a small crowd here today on a Wednesday afternoon. Just want to check and make sure everything is going okay. Looks like you can hear me. That's good. All right, that's question number one. Question number two. D. Javier from Parts Unknown. He wants to talk a little bit about basketball a little bit. Now, he's asking about Tyson Walker, and he says... Tyson Walker, does he grow out of his fear and play his game this season? Seems like he was afraid to assert himself last season at key times. Man, he's so close to being special. That's from D. Javier from Parts Unknown, Michigan State basketball. I was at practice yesterday watching Tyson Walker a little bit, talk to Izzo a little bit. You can find that interview over here on our SpartanMag YouTube channel. And could this be the year Tyson Walker, becomes a little bit less shy about taking a shot? He was curiously reserved about looking for his own offense last year, coming in from Northeastern. Point guard, maybe not a true point guard, maybe more of a combo guard. This is practice from last week from Michigan State video you're watching right now. Tyson Walker averaged 8.2 points per game last year, 47% from three-point range. 47%. That is ultra productive. Anything above 33% is productive. 47% from a point guard can and should really put a lot of pressure on a defense to cope with him and his passing skills. Last year, Tyson Walker, with that great percentage, only attempted 74 three-pointers. If he attempts more, maybe his percentage goes down, but it still ends up being productive. He attempted 74 three-pointers. Last year, Gabe Brown attempted 191. Max Christie, 123. Max Christie only shot 31%. They kept riding him to see if he'd come around. Never quite did. So those two players, Brown and Christie, 314 three-pointers. That's almost half of the team's three-pointers on the year. So Michigan State is losing 314 three-point attempts. So those attempts have to come from somewhere. Last year, Walker attempted 74. I think Jaden Akins, limited time, attempted 50. Akins is going to be attempting more. Absolutely, Tyson Walker is going to be attempting more. He has to. They need him to. He has the ability to do it. Secondly, most of his minutes last year were at point guard. He and A.J. Hoggard shared the point guard role. Occasionally, they were in the backcourt together, including that comeback attempt where they lost to Illinois at home. That's when Walker went off for 20-plus. Was it 20-plus in the second half? I can't remember what it was, but he was remarkable, showing some of what he can do when he just looks for his shot. He was mainly at point guard. They didn't share the court themselves, all that much, just those two. This year, they will be sharing the court more. Hoggard and Walker will be on the court together. They'll be starting. And you'll have two guys that can both run the point. Mainly Hoggard. He's got a little bit better ability to, I think he's just a little bit better of a passer. Walker can be a dazzling passer at times, but Hoggard can be a plus passer in terms of just his basketball IQ. They want Hoggard to be more of a drive-to-dish guy more than a drive to look for a shot, and he's getting into that. Hoggard, by the way, has lost a little bit of weight, continues to lose weight. He's looking good. He's shooting better also. But yes, Walker, as a wing, running the court in transition, does not have the length that you like with your wings that run the transition of the Michigan State system. You like to have a guy that can run and catch and shoot like, Morris Peterson, Gabe Brown at times, streaky, Darrell Summers at times, streaky, but when it's on and it's looking good, if you have more height, it's harder to defend. Walker doesn't have height, but he can shoot well. I think you will see him in transition. And then with his shooting ability, running the floor, getting on the wing, usually the left wing, defenses have to get out on him. Now more so than a Darrell Summers, way more so than Darrell Summers, who is not a good passer. Gabe Brown, who couldn't really go places with the ball. When you have someone that can run, catch it on the left wing, and be a shot threat, now shot fake drive, now you've got secondary penetration. It can make the Izzo Heathcote fast break look a little bit different when you've got a playmaker running the wing that can shoot like that. They've never quite had that. They've moved guards over there to play wings, but they haven't been guys that have been great shooters. Travis Walton moved to the wing when Neitzel came in, but he was never a great shooter. He was on the court to be a defensive player. Charlie Bell, played the wing on the right wing back in 99, 2000, 2001, mainly 98, 99, 2000. In 01, he became the point guard. He was a guy that ran the right wing, could really run, was a pretty good shooter, pretty good mechanical type ball handler and playmaker, and an all-around great player. Walker potentially could maybe shoot a little bit better than Bell. Walker potentially could be a little bit more of a better playmaker and passer than Bell. Bell was very good, very within his stayed in his lane, literally and figuratively. He was great, one of the all-time greats, no question. Walker Bell might be the closest thing to Walker in terms of having a guy that's got playmaking skills that's going to be running in transition down the left wing. Now, when Hoggard needs a break, Walker goes to the point. Or Walker could stay there, Trey Holloman comes in. Or Walker, sits first. I don't know how they'll do that. Probably Hoggard sits first. That's the way they used to do it with Cleaves and Bell, going all the way back to late 90s, early and into 2000. Bell and Cleaves would start together. Cleaves would sit, Bell would go to the point. Bell would sit, Cleaves would come back in. And then for the last 4 minutes of the half, they'd both be in there. And the first 4 minutes of the second half. And the last 4 minutes of the game. But in the 12 minutes of the meat of each half, one was out, one was resting. It drove Digger Phelps crazy. He couldn't understand why these guys weren't playing 40 minutes a game. Well, Phelps went to one Final Four. Anyway, and he used to criticize Izzo about that. They should be playing a 1-3-1, Phelps says. I know that's 20 years ago. I'm still complaining about Phelps, complaining about Michigan State. We don't hear Phelps anymore. All right, question number 3 from Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Sparty is his name. He says, Jim, just curious to know your take on Michigan State's football defensive woes. He says, do you think it's more of a personnel issue or scheme? And we're hearing a lot of that debate these days. Is it personnel or is it scheme? This scheme is terrible on defense. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. He says, assuming Mel Tucker makes a change at defensive coordinator, who would be some of your top candidates? He says it seems like Phil Parker could be a good fit if he wanted to leave Iowa. Thank you. Let's wait and see how it pans out with Scotty Hazelton. He's got to prove a lot here at the end of the season. And Tucker is one who confronts and demands. And, you have to answer to him. It's a production business, like he says. So I think he needs to, Hazelton has to prove himself. And he knows it. So let's just let that play out. As far as Phil Parker goes, if Kirk Ferentz retired at Iowa, like after this season, I know some people that would personally get in the car and drive to Iowa City to give him the contract. And he's still a Spartan, so I think that might pique his interest. But let's wait and see how the season pans out. You're asking, is it scheme or is it personnel? Here's the thing. There's a lot of things in life like this. It can be both. All right? And it's not just scheme, because people use this broad term, scheme. You never hear that in basketball, because in basketball, it's man-to-man or zone. It could be a 3-2 zone or 2-3 zone. Maybe you press, maybe you don't, but everybody plays man-to-man. Now, how do you play your man-to-man? Are you out attacking, or are you playing gap defense? Are you doing, back to the nail and, pack line type of defense? That which is a form of man-to-man with zone principles or whatever. But no one talks scheme in basketball because everybody runs the same thing. Well, in football, everybody runs the same things too in terms of coverage. I mean, there's 4-3s and 3-4s and 3-3-5s and all that, but basically, in the defensive backfield, everybody's running cover 4 and cover 2. Some man-to-man, cover 1 man-to-man. Some, zero blitz once in a while. Cover 6. There's some teams that with veteran teams can morph into more things. I mean, Indiana a couple years ago when they had Womack, I talk about him a lot. I thought he was great with the way they changed pictures. I thought Purdue did a really good job changing pictures with Ronnie English last week against Minnesota. And Tanner Morgan was a completely different quarterback against a defense that was changing pictures, as opposed to Michigan State, which showed their picture too early at pre-snap against Minnesota. Now, they were dumbing things down against Minnesota, so maybe they had too much volume in against Washington. Then against Maryland, they took another step in that metamorphosis. Michigan State played more 2-deep zone. A lot of cover 4 zone, 2-deep zone. Cover 4 has 2 deeps, but sometimes it's all 4 are deep. Sometimes it bails at the snap. Sometimes it's cover 2 on this side, cover 4 on this side. That makes cover 6. They did that and had a nice hit along the sideline with Amir Speed once when that happened. But scheme, so they're running the same schemes as everybody else. It comes down to execution. How well are they executing these universal coverages? That's what it is. It's not like they're doing some wacky style of defense that no one else is doing and it's failing. It's failing statistically and in terms of wins and losses because execution is not good. Players are not doing it right. Players has a lot to do with that. The players, the people that are on the field. And I posted this. We talked about it in the VCast yesterday. Posted it on the Underground Bunker message board. I listed the players that I thought coming into the season would be Michigan State's 11 best players. Now, it changed as the season went along, or it would change. For instance, I didn't have Cal Halliday in the top 11. I like him, solid player. I didn't have him in the top 11. I'd been hearing good things about Jacoby Windman. I'd put him at number 11. My top 11 players coming into the season: Jaden Reed, number 1. Number 2, Jacob Slade. Number 3, Simeon Barrow. Number 4, Xavier Henderson. What do all 4 of those guys have in common? 2 of them have been out since the opener. 1 is not himself, Jaden Reed. And Barrow's been in and out, missed half the Washington game, missed half the Minnesota game. Did his best to play well against Maryland. Top 4, Jaden Reed, Jacob Slade, Simeon Barrow, Xavier Henderson. Your 4 best players. Number 5, Peyton Thorne. That's what I had in the preseason. I'd slide him down now. Number 6, Darius Snow. What are those 5? 5 of the top 6 players. What do they have in common? Out. Give me any team in the country. I don't care if it's Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. Take away 5 of their 6 best players for extended period of times. In some cases, since the first half of the first game. And it's going to cost you a couple wins. And that's not to mention starting defensive end Jeff Pietrowski, starting defensive end Chris Bogle, and some others. So I understand Jaden Reed is on offense, but you've heard, and you're sick of the term complementary football. If Jaden Reed is on the field, maybe some drives go further. Maybe the defense doesn't have to go right back on there. Maybe the scoreboard doesn't change as much. That can help the defense. Slade, Barrow, Henderson, Snow, key players on the defense, which was not supposed to be a great defense anyway. taking away one of the best defensive tackles in the Big Ten, a linebacker in Darius Snow that I thought was going to be an all-Big Ten candidate, Xavier Henderson, a fifth-year senior, from each line of the defense. Your communication, all that. So that's part of why the scheme is not working. Those guys are not on the field. They've got replacements in there. And we talked about this with Konendijk, and I'll continue to say it. You might say, hey, next man up, next man up. That is crap that the coaches say publicly so that the players still have some belief. A coach can't come out and say, man, we're down 5 players. We're really up against it. We're only a shred of what we could possibly be. You don't want your players hearing that. Coaches say it, but fans cannot be stupid enough to believe it. And I'm not saying that coaches are trying to trick anybody. They're just trying to, well, maybe they're trying to trick their players. It's about a psychological thing for their players. It's a political thing also for the fans, but fans, be smarter than that. Coaches can't say the truth on that. You know why? Because people can't handle the truth. So you take a mediocre defense, you take those players out. Now Michigan State is in midseason trying to repair a 747 in flight, and they're trying to see, okay, what can we do that these players can handle? And that's where the team is right now. The things that they worked on in the spring and in the fall, some of that stuff goes out the window. They try to do some of those things against Washington, failed miserably in a lot of respects. Dialed it back a little bit more against Minnesota to stop the run first and gave up, check with me, plays at the line of scrimmage in the passing game. Against Maryland, it was more too deep, keep it in front, allow completion, tackle. They could have been tighter on that, and I think they will get tighter on that. I asked Mel Tucker on Monday, did you see more of a same pageness on your defense in that game? And he thought that they did, and that is progress. They lost to a pretty good team. We'll see what happens with Maryland and Purdue this weekend. But I think that's what this team needs to do. The corner coverage is not great. Amir Speed has trouble with his agility, but he can be a good, solid, big, hard-hitting corner and, cover 2, cover 4, but you can't play cover 2 like every single down. You have to switch it up, cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, occasional 2 deep man under, occasional single safety deep man under, occasionally with some blitzes or whatever. But for this team with limited ability to cover and still trying to find out what they have at the safety position, that, deep 2 shell, cover 4 shell might be the way to do it. Maybe not to beat Ohio State, but if you get better and better at that and the offense catches a pulse a little bit, then maybe you can beat, at the end of the year, Rutgers and Indiana. And in the meantime, maybe you can beat Wisconsin. In the meantime, so that's 3 wins, you got 5 wins. Maybe you can beat, who else is on there? Illinois. Illinois looked real good against, put up a big number against Wisconsin. I watched some of that game 2 nights ago, getting back to it. And it was okay. Illinois did some good things on defense. I mean, they played 3 deep, 8 in the box, and just stopped the run. They knew what was coming. And Wisconsin's offensive line, I'll have to go back and watch Wisconsin versus Ohio State, see what happened there. But Wisconsin's offensive line, when I'm watching that game, looked like the worst Wisconsin offensive line I've seen since 1992. 93, they emerged with Brent Moss, Fletcher, and those guys. That stretch zone that Alvarez was putting in, went to the Rose Bowl, surprised everybody in 93. They've been good ever since, until this year on the offensive line. And Bielema, with their defense, they kind of knew where some of those weaknesses were. They stopped them. So, and in Illinois, DeVito, quarterback, he's got the 1 receiver. The running back looks pretty good. They're okay, but don't be putting Illinois in the Hall of Fame just yet. They've got to be able to handle some success. We'll see where they go. But if Michigan State gets more of their crap together, they can beat Illinois. I can't believe I'm saying that. Yeah, they can beat Illinois. That's 6 wins if you win those winnable games. And I think these steps on defense give you a chance to get to that point. So that's where they are right now. And I appreciate all the other questions. That's all we have time for right now. Appreciate everybody checking in and giving us a look. And go over to SpartanMag.com. And for more coverage throughout the day and throughout the week as we head toward Michigan State versus Ohio State on Saturday at Spartan Stadium. That's 3&Out for today. Thanks for everybody checking in. Have a great day. Check you next time. SpartanMag.com.